1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in they Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus.
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down. Now, for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. Yeah, that's me gassing right there on that intro. And if you want to get that song, hit me up on my email, 16tolifemusic@gmail.com, and I will give you the information on how to get it. So a lot of times, we'll hear a person misuse the word of crashing out. Some dude might get upset, angry, pick up his cup of soda and throw it on somebody, and they'll say he crashed out. But today I'm going to be talking about a blood who I done time with, who truly and solely crashed out. He was convicted of being the sole shooter in something that came to be known as the Gable house shooting, which was a shooting that took place in Torrance, California. I believe it was January the 4th, 2019. Where 7 people were shot. Unfortunately, in that shooting, you had 3 young men lose their lives and 4 other people who was also shot and injured. And 3 years later, I believe it was in September of 2022, eventually Reginald Wallace, who was also a blood known as Sir Me, was sentenced to 3 consecutive, that's one after the other, life without parole sentences, plus an additional 280 years. Anyway, man, let's hop into the case and the story of Sir Me, the OG blood who really crashed out.
Welcome to Hood Politics. In this episode, I will be discussing the Gable House Massacre. The facts of the case are as follows. Gable House was a popular bowling alley located in the city of Torrance. People would venture to the alley to celebrate birthdays, baby showers, field trips, company events, and many other things. But for the most part, it was just a nice spot for people to meet up and have some fun. The alley also featured an arcade area, bar, and restaurant, which held karaoke nights from time to time. The alley had 40 bowling lanes, with 20 being located on the north side of the building, and the other 20 being located on the south side of the building. The front desk, arcade area, bar, and restaurant sat in the middle of the building. On Friday and Saturday nights from midnight to 3 a.m., the alley hosted an event called Rock and Glow, which was its version of Cosmic Bowling. The event always led to a packed house, and things usually went off without a hitch, but one night, everything changed. On the night of Friday, January 4th, 2019, the bowling alley was packed. There were people eating at the restaurant, drinking at the bar, playing games in the arcade area, and bowling at the lanes. Among the attendees was a 20-year-old man named Michael Radford, a 28-year-old man named Robert Meekins, and another 28-year-old man named Ashton Edwards. Everyone seemed to be having a good time, and Michael even filmed a video while at the bowling alley showing how much fun they were having. But as the night went on, things would take a turn for the worse. At around 11:54 p.m., 2 women approached a group of women that were standing near the snack bar, and they began arguing.
And so this is what kicks it off. You have 2 women getting into it with 2 other women, according to this story right here. Seems like it's always a situation where you will have people out, going to chill, and people will see other people they have a problem with and kick the situation off. And then if there's men around for whatever reason, and the men happen to be from different areas, different sections, and they get involved, sometimes the situation can get ugly.
Moments later, they began fighting. Two groups of men got involved and also began fighting. Witnesses estimate that 20 people were involved in the brawl. The bowling alley was in chaos. Tables were being flipped over and chairs and drinks were being thrown. The brawl moved towards the front counter and arcade area. Patrons fled the building or hunkered down in place as security ran towards the melee and attempted to break it up. Seconds later, multiple gunshots rang out. The group quickly dispersed and began running away as the gunshots continued. Witnesses recalled hearing over 10 shots. The shooter, as well as multiple people that were involved in the brawl, then fled the scene. As patrons began emerging from their hiding places, they discovered a massacre. Multiple people had been shot. Robert was found lying on a small set of stairs near the lanes on the south side. He had been hit in the right arm and chest. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Robert was the father of a 5-year-old boy. He worked in maintenance and had just gotten off work prior to going to the bowling alley. Ashton was found lying on the floor near a counter between the north and south lanes. He had been hit in the chest. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Ashton was the godfather of Robert's son and had went to the alley that night to hang out with Robert. He worked loading planes at LAX airport. Michael was found lying near the same counter as Ashton. He had been hit in the torso. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Michael was the father of a baby girl. 4 others were wounded during the shooting.
And that's a cold situation. You have 3 young men, all under the age of 30, who were shot and killed and lost their lives in this mass shooting. My condolences go out to the family of those young individuals who lost their lives, and also for everybody who was traumatically scarred in this type of shooting, right? And this can be labeled as a mass shooting because you had 7 individuals who were shot.
Were transported to the hospital, and the 2 others sought medical attention on their own.
Hi guys, good morning. Witnesses are describing a chaotic scene after gunfire broke out at that bowling alley.
The shooter situation. We have multiple subjects down inside and outside Gable House.
Overnight, police racing to the scene after calls of shots fired. Authorities saying just before midnight, a verbal fight broke out between a group of women. It turned physical with others getting involved. Moments later, gunshots.
So as they were fighting and then the guys got into the fight and people were up and down, then probably not even a good minute later, we heard gunshots. Pop, 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 pop.
The scuffle sending terrified customers running for cover.
I seen people running and I heard gunshots and I tried to get down and my daughter is right there, my niece is right there. I told everybody to get down.
Police and EMS rushing in to help the victims. Authorities saying 3 people were pronounced dead at the scene while others were injured and rushed to the hospital.
Detectives arrived at the scene and began their investigation. They saw multiple surveillance cameras positioned throughout the building and knew that the incident had to be caught on video. They also found that multiple people had recorded the incident on their cell phones, and the footage had already made its way to social media. While reviewing,
Now that's crazy. They say so as they get there and they're attending to the people who was injured, still trying to assess the scene. By that time, multiple, they said, videos of this shooting had already been uploaded to social media. So it's just crazy in this day and age for anybody to get cracking, start shooting out in public and not expect to be caught. There's cameras everywhere. There are people recording. And like they said, this stuff is going to hit social media ASAP. And you are definitely going to be in jail.
Viewing the footage, investigators saw a man pull a gun from his right pocket, extend his right arm, and open fire 11 times, all while holding a styrofoam cup in his left hand. After speaking to witnesses, investigators were able to get a full scope of the incident at the bowling alley. It's believed that a woman invited multiple people to the bowling alley that night, and some of them happened to be from rival gangs. Michael was a member of the Hat Gang Watts Crips and went by the nickname Lil J-Bone. Robert was a member of the 4-Pack Gangster Crips and went by the nickname Tank. Ashton was also a member of the 4-Pack Gangster Crips and went by the nickname Stro. The 4-Pack is an alliance of gangs located on the east side of South Central. The alliance is comprised of the 4 Deuce, 4 Trey, and 4-8 Gangster Crips. Both Robert and Ashton were members of 4-8. The woman had also invited multiple rival Blood gang members, in particular the Bloodstone Villains. The 4-Pack and the Bloodstone Villains are bitter rivals and have been at war for over 40 years. This feud has resulted in numerous shootings and multiple murders, and with both gangs being present at the bowling alley, it was only a matter of time until they clashed. Many reported the night going smoothly early on, with one group staying near the south lanes and the other staying near the north lanes. But as more people arrived, the tension began to grow, and once alcohol was introduced into the equation, things went bad. Investigators quickly learned the identity of the shooter. It was a 47-year-old man named Reginald Wallace. Reginald was a well-respected member of the Bloodstone Villains and went by the nickname Lil Sir.
Now he calls him Little Sir right there, but I knew him as Sir Me, which I believe is the correct name. Me and Sir Me actually happened to be in Ironwood prison together. And actually, a close homie of mine was cellies with Sir Me. A lot of times I can't remember the specific dates, but this time I can because we had got caught up in a riot on C Yard around 2003. And so after that, I ended up going back to A Yard, me and a homie of mine. And when they moved us over there, my homie happened to get in the cell with Sir Me. He said Sir Me was extremely, extremely respectful. I definitely remember one of the things he said, man, the dude is so polite, it's damn near sickening. You know, he would always say, excuse me, excuse me. He said he was extremely polite. And in my experience, individuals like that in prison are extremely polite and they show everybody respect because they want to be respected. Never take that polite attitude for weakness. This dude is saying, hey, man, I'm showing you the ultimate respect and I expect the same. My homie was only in the cell with him for a while and then they moved out, even though I believe we was all in the same building, if my memory serves me correct. I don't even know if me and Sir Me had any words. We may have just said, you know, what's up? I can't even remember if that, you know, I do remember that for the most part, at least out in public, Sir Me was relatively quiet. You know, he didn't interact with a whole lot of different people. He wasn't nothing close to what you may say a social butterfly, right? He, of course, he kicked it with the Bloods and he may have been more outwardly talkative with those individuals. But as far as just running around talking, no, he wasn't really, you know, he wasn't really a dude who socialized with a whole lot of everybody.
Detectives immediately launched a manhunt for Reginald. Meanwhile, family and friends began showing up to the bowling alley after news of the shooting began to spread. They stood next to the police crime scene tape in the parking lot and watched as investigators took witness statements and emergency workers wheeled victims out of the bowling alley on stretchers. Soon afterwards, they were notified of their loved ones' conditions. In the following hours and days, candlelight vigils were held and memorials were placed in front of the bowling alley. 2 days after the shooting, on Sunday, January 6 at 4:18 a.m., detectives and SWAT officers arrested Reginald near the intersection of 4th Street and Western Avenue in the neighborhood of Koreatown, just west of downtown LA. He was apprehended without incident. Reginald was no stranger to law enforcement and had accumulated a long rap sheet throughout the years. In June of 1989, as a juvenile, he was convicted of first-degree murder. In 1997, he was convicted of possessing a firearm within a school zone. In 1998, he was convicted of assault with a firearm. He was released in 2017 after serving 17 years in prison. He was on parole at the time of the shooting. Reginald was charged with 3 counts of murder for the deaths of Michael Radford, Robert Meekins, and Ashton Edwards. He was also charged with 4 counts of attempted murder and possession of a firearm by a felon, as well as gun and gang enhancement charges. Reginald was booked into the Los Angeles County Jail and held without bail. He later pled not guilty. Investigators searched his home in San Pedro and found the same clothes that he had been wearing on the night of the shooting. The gang allegations were later dropped during a preliminary hearing. The trial began on Monday, June 13th, 2022. The prosecutors in the case were John Chang and Robert Song. Song painted Reginald as a gang member with a long rap sheet and a propensity for violence. Song told the court that Reginald wasn't involved in the fight and he could have stayed out of it, but he chose to murder 3 people. He went on to say that Reginald didn't know the victims, but he did intentionally target them during the shooting. Song played video of the incident for the jury. He pointed out Reginald wearing a tan t-shirt watching the fight from a distance. He then walked towards the entrance, extended his right arm, and opened fire towards the brawl. Song said Reginald separated from the fight and then used the chaos as cover while he opened fire. He then left the bowling alley. He walked towards the south entrance of the parking lot along 226th Street and made his way southbound along Cawthorn Boulevard and was picked up shortly afterwards by the same people he rode to the bowling alley with.
Now that's crazy. So they actually have video of Sir Me while all this stuff is going on. And that just goes to what I was talking about earlier, that in these situations, in this day and age, you have to know that there are surveillance cameras everywhere, especially in these public establishments. And you just can't go up in there, you know, pull out a gun and go to shooting and think you will not be identified.
Detective named Lucas Rayano testified that he didn't know what sparked the argument, but he did acknowledge that the melee began after the women began fighting. Rayano testified that Michael was seen in a surveillance video running to the fight from the south lanes in an attempt to break it up, but was pushed back by the other group, which eventually led to the melee. It's reported that Michael's girlfriend was among the group of women fighting, and Robert and Ashton were among a handful of people that were trying to break up the fight. Rayano testified that Ashton did have a gun in his right pants pocket that police found after arriving at the scene. The defense attorney in the case was a man named Scott Johnson. Johnson pointed to a surveillance still photo shortly before the shots were fired. The photo appeared to show Ashton's right hand near his right pocket. He went on to say that due to the camera angle, many of the participants' lower bodies couldn't be seen, so it's impossible to know how many others were carrying weapons. Reginald testified that he was on the north side of the alley drinking with a group of people, and he knew that rival gang members were in the building, but he had no plans on confronting them. He went on to say that as he stood near the entrance of the bowling alley, the fight began moving towards him, and he noticed Ashton pull a gun, so he opened fire to protect himself and those he was with. Song told the court that although there was a gun found in Ashton's pocket, it was mostly closed with a zipper, and no other witnesses reported seeing Ashton holding the gun. While Reginald was in custody, investigators recorded one of his jailhouse conversations with another inmate. During the exchange, Reginald told the other inmate that he had spotted rival gang members and intentionally walked to a spot near the door underneath a surveillance camera, believing he was in a blind spot and wouldn't be seen on video, but he didn't realize that 4 or 5 other cameras were facing his direction and had captured the shooting. Johnson said Reginald was practicing situational awareness and had learned to avoid trying to sound weak while talking to another inmate. He went on to say that the inmate wasn't a reliable witness because he stood to be rewarded for cooperating with prosecutors. Members of Michael, Robert, and Ashton's families spoke during the trial and told the court how the shooting impacted them.
Now that's crazy, right? That's another thing that it seemed like he would have had enough street smarts not to do. You know, regardless of who you consider an individual to be, when you are locked up for crimes that will put you away for the rest of your life, you cannot talk, share, discuss any information in relation to your case, right? Because they said that he talked to someone and the conversation was recorded. So obviously the dude that recorded the conversation was already working with law enforcement, right? And sometimes that does happen where you have individuals who will be willing to trade information about other individuals and try to get guilty convictions of other people that they are locked up with in order to get some time off for whatever they're locked up with. And so it is an ugly situation, but it's reality, you know, so you should never discuss your case with anybody while you're locked up in prison, because situations like this definitely will happen.
Michael's mother, Michelle Miller, told Reginald, "You tore up 3 families." She noted that her son wasn't alive long enough to be there for his daughter's first birthday and said that she wanted to ensure that Reginald doesn't ever walk out of prison again. Robert's mother, Angeline Hubbard, said in a statement read in court on her behalf that she keeps asking herself why Reginald shot her son. She wrote, "Do you have any regrets? Do you think about Robert? As Robert's mother, I hope you never see the light of day." Robert's son also had a statement read in court on his behalf. It read, "He was my everything, and you took all that away from me. I will never forgive you." Ashton's sister Ashley called Reginald a coward. She said it doesn't get any easier as the 4-year anniversary of his murder had grown closer. She went on to say that her and Ashton were close and she usually hung out with them on Friday nights but wasn't able to on the night of the shooting because she had a dentist appointment. Johnson told the court that Reginald has spent the majority of his life behind bars and he feels immense remorse for what happened. He went on to say that Reginald is not a monster and is a human being who as a child was not given the chances others had. During the closing arguments, Chang classified the shooting as a gang-motivated triple murder. He said the shooting was willful and premeditated. He called Reginald's actions a series of choices that will forever change the lives of those at Gable House that night, including those that weren't injured but had to run for cover when they heard gunfire. On Friday, June 24th, 2022, the verdict was in. After less than 2 hours of deliberation, a jury found Reginald guilty of 3 counts of murder for the deaths of Michael Radford, Robert Meekins, and Ashton Edwards, as well as 4 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of being a felon in possession of a firearm. On Friday, September 30th, 2022, Reginald Wallace was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In 2023, after 60 years in business, Gable House was demolished. The property was purchased for $21 million by Intracorp and is set to become the site of 218 luxury apartments and businesses. The project is slated to be completed by mid-2025. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, so definitely go check that show out. It's a great channel. It's called Hood Politics. I happen to know an individual, a dude who I done some time with. He done a lot of time himself, and he happens to know Sir Me. The friend who I know, he has talked to Sir Me several times since his incarceration, right? And I asked him, how is Sir Me dealing with everything? Because he has to realize that he's never getting out of prison. And he said, he's dealing with it. And in a situation like that, you really have no choice but to deal with it or commit suicide. He said, in his opinion, for me, definitely regrets that situation. He didn't elaborate if he regretted it because he got caught or he actually regretted it because it happened. Once again, my condolences go out to these 3 young men and their families who, have to deal with this ugly situation. I definitely believe that Sir Me is in there hating life right now. Knowing that you are gonna get old and die in prison is crazy, especially after knowing you just did 17 years straight and he was still on parole. He didn't even get much time to enjoy his freedom. Just an ugly, ugly situation. To me, it seems like after an individual has done such a long stretch in prison, he would try to come out and, if possible, relocate. Sometimes people feel that they have to carry guns for protection or whatever, but that has a lot to do with dudes being in their same neighborhood. They're hanging with the same crowd, so on and so forth, right? So if you try to change your life and put yourself in different situations, it's possible, right? Anytime you running around feeling that you need to have a gun, a lot of times things may not go good. Anyway, man, you already know what it is. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.